Greetings, audience. Today we're going to be talking about James Wan's 2011 horror film, Insidious, written by Lee Winnell. Now, Insidious is a great horror movie. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's up there with Ready or Not and Quiet Place, others, Mist, Shining, all of that. It's a really good horror movie. Definitely James Wan's best film, in my opinion, next to The Conjuring and such. Obviously, Aquaman, I think, is also a really fun movie. I think really my only flaw with the entirety of the film is there's a decision that a character makes that at the time when I first saw the film didn't make sense to me. However, now watching it, it makes sense because the chapters 3 and 4, the last key, really explain it. But those are really the only reasons you should watch chapter 2 or 3. I mean, they're still good, but they're not great or pretty good. Chapter 2 is pretty good, but Insidious, none of its sequels beat this film. I'm very hyped to see Insidious 5. And I'm very happy that longtime collaborator with James Wan, Patrick Wilson, is going to be doing his directorial debut with this franchise. He's fantastic in this movie. Same with Rose Byrne. They're both very good actors. The dialogue, when it's given to you in the film, they feel like they're actually talking to each other. Like they're a real couple talking to each other. And when stuff starts to get real, it feels like someone's appropriate reaction to something like this. Sure, there's a fair amount of skepticism on one character's side, but that's because they themselves haven't witnessed any of it. And as soon as they begin to witness things, the movie falls together in such a way that's just it's amazing. It's not like that typical horror movie where the person ignores everything that this main character says until you have that rushed 15-minute exorcism scene at the end of a film to banish a demon, which the Conjuring franchise is very famous for doing that, because every single film in that franchise, other than the first two Conjurings and Annabelle Creation, have a final 15 minutes that's literally ratcheted up to like 10. And it's just last 15 minutes, rush to get everything done. And the last 15 minutes of Insidious 3 and 4 are both like that. I mean, the last few minutes of Insidious 2, the whole final thing goes on for the entirety of the third act. Same with this film. I think the third act of this is honestly quite creepy. There's a scene involving static images that change every time you go into a room. So every time you go into a room, it's like a new photo of a story. And that scene is creepy, like very creepy. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of jump scares in the film, but if you know James Wan, none of his stuff is, it's not like a cat jumping out of a trash can, a raccoon crawling through the grass. It's none of that kind of jump scares, which, sadly, one of my favorite horror films, Quiet Place, falls victim to constantly with raccoons. You know what I'm talking about. But there are no fake-out scares. The opening scene in this and the opening credits are very well done. If you look hard enough in the opening credits, there's something going on in each frame. And they're just blue statics of the house that the main characters live in. This film, what's his face? Same Ty Simpkins, same kid who plays Gray in Jurassic World. He's really good in the film as this child who's being constantly abused by this demon. I mean, the demon is probably my favorite antagonist in the series. There are a lot of good antagonists in the franchise, but it's weird, if you know what I mean. They get progressively stranger, even though this one's still pretty strange. I mean, the music, by the way, Joseph Bishara's score, I like all of his scores, even in Curse of La Llorona, where it's like very, how can I say this? It's very like, the audio is like so messed up, it just sounds like is trying to murder your eardrums, but his scores are all very well done. This is probably my favorite of his scores, followed by his score that he did for the first Conjuring film, which is an amazing movie that you should definitely check out. But this film, definitely one of my favorite horror movies, and I haven't even talked about Juan's direction. Juan's direction of this film is phenomenal. In fact, it's just, he knows what he wants to show you and what he doesn't want to show you. Keep in mind, this film was made on a $1.5 million budget, which for a horror film, it's like, it's typical what people get for horror films. He has a very low budget, even though the typical horror film budget's actually around $5 million, which is what they made Lights Out on, which David F. Sandberg's first film, who also went on to make Annabelle Creation, which is one of my favorite movies in the Conjuring universe, and one of my favorite horror films. But he also then went on to make Shazam, which is kind of funny, because he went from an indie horror to a Conjuring film to a DC film. James Wan, Saw, Conjuring, Aquaman. It's a little odd. This film is a lot of fun. It's great. Wan knows exactly how to creep you out, how to scare you. The jump scares in this film, as I've said, none are fake outs. They're all there, and they're all meant to be there. In fact, if you look at any of his films, none of the jump scares are fake outs.
I'm going to give Insidious an A9.
Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and comment something that you'd like to recommend me to watch or to review on the channel, as I love watching the things that people recommend to me. I just love watching movies in general. And of course, if you haven't seen it, put it on your watch list. It's on Netflix. It's a very good horror film. You'll probably enjoy it, and it's a lot of fun for people who are just getting started with horror films. Anyways, till next time, good day, audience.